seconds over.
Let's go.
So this February 15th meeting of the Public Works, call that to order. And we have a quorum, thankfully. And our first item of business is with Brian Ybarro, Pioneer Road Extension. Brian.
Yes, thank you and good afternoon. Before you is a petition received from Keepers Incorporated. This is in regards to a sanitary sewer, storm sewer, water main, curb and gutter, and bituminous street. The petition is located approximately a quarter block east of Western Avenue. And if I may, I've attached a more general location map. And does this work with the mouse with the, can you see the index finger?
Yep.
Okay. Western Avenue, come along Pioneer Road. This is the Keepers Sunset Ridge Apartments. They have constructed building 1, constructing building 2. They sent a petition which is for site 3, phase 3. They plan to begin construction on this building fall 2017. Therefore, they sent me this petition. The area in red indicates the subject area where we would be reviewing and looking to expand the road to facilitate this building and future needs of the area. This represents 100% of the abutting benefited property owners meeting the requirements of Chapter 429. If approved, accepting this petition, the engineering department will prepare a report on the estimated project costs and method of special assessment for consideration of a public hearing to proceed further with this project. I've also included an additional map. This is kind of dates back to 2012, conceptual layout of future infrastructure planning in this vicinity. This is alignment, proposed alignment, conceptual plan to connect Pioneer Road and Field Street located in this vicinity that we would like to, I think, plan on constructing as development of this area needs are requested at those times.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I'm requesting accepting of this petition from Keepers Inc. and initiating public improvement 5306 Pioneer Street and Utility Extension from Verilde Circle to approximately 520 feet east terminus.
Okay. Any questions from?
I got just one. Is that 520 feet all the way to the road then, whatever this road is, right, the north and south road?
No,
It's not. It'll stop someplace.
it stops pretty much at the adjacent lot line
Okay.
right here. So it's just, we'd like to get it, if we proceed with this project, it'll be for the ingress egress for the site building here, but we'd also like to extend the utilities for future expansion to the east. So it's a subject about 520 feet.
Okay. I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
That's good. All right. Any other discussion or comments or questions from those with us here? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We move that on to the consent.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have airport management with Brian again.
Yes, thank you. The fixed-based operator, FBO, and airport management agreements between the city and Fergus Falls Life Center are scheduled to be renewed on March 30th, or were renewed on March 13th, 2015. It's a 2-year term. These agreements are set to expire February 28th, if not mutually agreed upon by both parties. Recently, the airport committee discussed both agreements. They voted to approve the airport management agreement. However, on the FBO agreement for renewal of that, they deferred that to myself and city council. This was attributed to discussion based on the absence of a full-time mechanic on site at the airport facility. I had the city attorney review the FBO agreements, and pursuant to the agreement, actually repair is not required under the agreement. However, it's in all parties' interest to have a mechanic. The FBO has been actively over the past year looking for a replacement mechanic, primarily that specializes in inspection, authorization, IA, FAA certification, that helps do all the annual certifications for the airports. He's even recently contacted the mechanic schools at Aberdeen, South Dakota, and Thief River Falls, half these students are already called for employment at other places and everything. So it has been difficult at times to bring a full-time mechanic that meets those IA certifications to the airports. I also want to note that the obligations, other city obligations under the FBO agreement in regards to the snow removal equipment, the city supplies and maintains the snow removal equipment for Fergus Falls Flight Center to do the snow removal operations at the airport. As you're all aware, and we just recently acted on the acquisition of new snow removal equipment, but we have been plagued with a lot of equipment breakdowns in the past year that had cost months to repair. So taking everything into consideration, and it is in all parties' best interest to have a mechanic at the airport, however not required, but for the city and not only for Fergus Falls Flight Center as well. I'm just recommending that we renew not only the airport management agreement, but as well the FBO agreement for the next 2-year term.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions? Do we have an motion to move this forward?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, thanks. One comment, Brian, as we spoke earlier, as we move it forward, we talked about the cost per gallon.
Yes, flow fee.
Yeah, and then if that cost per gallon was calculated so that if the city had to repair or replace tanks or pumps that we would be able to recoup those costs in the agreement, so we're looking ahead as if we're setting aside a little bit there. Is that agreeable to you that we look into that as it goes to council so we know kind of where we're at?
Yes, we've already done some preliminary research in regards to all the revenue and expenditure streams. And I can look a little bit further in regards to recovering those costs. And preliminary numbers indicates and everything. And with state maintenance aid we receive at the airport, it does, yeah, it's a maintenance program that helps. But as far as replacement and everything, we would have to look at a little bit more in depth on what the probable cost would be for new system replacements as well.
Right.
If they need. We had 3 underground storage tanks up located at the airport grounds. One in particular was inoperable, and it's been abandoned for some time. So we just last summer here took measures to fully abandon this one tank as well, so and reduce any potential leaks or that could be contributed to that fuel tank. So we're down to 2 tanks. So as far as the other 2, we can look to do some more numbers for council if that's
Right, and the intent is just that the FBO agreement is fair to both parties and that they're able to make what they need to, but we also are looking to possible replacement. In any good rental agreement, you want to be able to replace your costs that you have in it as a city. So. Is it true 75% of those costs can come from the granting process, so we'd have to?
If eligible, if it's eligible, and a
yeah.
majority of items like that, such as those maintenance, are eligible expenses. I think previous year is about 67%. The current 2-year maintenance agreement we have with MnDOT Aeronautics, the state, it says 75% share. So it
Okay.
fluctuates a little bit at those, but in general, a majority of all those costs are eligible for reimbursement.
All right, thanks for that. Any other comments, questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carry. We'll pass that on. You want that on the consent?
Yep.
Okay, triple header. Brian Navarro, utilities and
Yes, before you, this is regards to a partial release of a public utility easement located at 615 Frontier Drive. The fee owner of this subject property is requesting a reduction of this public utility easement located along the south side of this property. There's a map I've included in this request. They are looking for a reduction from 25 feet to 10 feet in width. This is requested to accommodate the redevelopment of this site. The new tenant is proposing to develop this particular portion for pavement for access and egress onto Frontier Drive from this property. Items like this, we contact the utility companies and about their planned use of this easement. Any responses so far that we received have taken no objection to this request. We've, city staff, reviewed this particular easement. It's been developed in a manner such that we don't feel that we could release this easement for the city. The city attorney indicated that the city council could release this partial easement by city council resolution if approved.
Okay, any questions on that, clarifications?
So partial means, I'm sorry, partial means we can have still some control, but yet he can do what he wants to do. It's up to the,
Well, partial, we're reducing it from 25 feet to 10 widths, so on a 25, it would we'd be removing that easement, so it's.
thank you, Rod.
The connections to this, my only question, future usage, et cetera, you've looked at that, so by reducing it, we're not going to be bottlenecking us or causing a problem?
No, I don't believe so. The way this area is developed and everything by the old Perkins, it's a Holiday Edition plat. It's all been developed in that area. All of our infrastructure, water main, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer is in place. I don't foresee any changes in the future through redevelopment of this area that would conflict with future expansion.
One other question then, as we allow then this reduction, the 25-foot, I have an easement on my property for city and utilities. Once we reduce that and building is allowed, what kind of restrictions, Brian, happen that, how close can they get to that? You know, okay, you got 10 feet now.
Mm-hmm.
So how close will they actually get with anything that could be damaged if we have to go in there or?
Well, that was the intent of the owner requesting that. It's not more so for the building, it's the turnaround, I believe, drive-through for this facility. So, yes, they didn't want to make improvements onto a property that's held in the easement with the city. And it's, I guess, to reduce their risk or anything to construct their facility, they want to be assured that it will be protected moving forward.
And as we go in there, if we have to do anything,
We still maintain a utility easement on the east
That's
side
not
where
a
our
problem.
actual utilities are.
yeah.
Where this
Access
area that we're
won't be a
here,
problem. Okay.
no.
All right. All in favor of this partial release public
I'll
utility easement?
make a motion to accept it.
Oh, sorry, yeah, all right. You
I'll
should
se-
maybe start one time and then
I'll second
you'll
it.
second it.
Last one.
Oh,
We're on the third,
all right,
just take
all in
them two at a
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. We'll move that on to consent, is that all right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay? And then next one is our recommendation to the council to set the 2017 driveway sidewalk improvement rates, PI 6069.
Yes, in this memo, we reviewed the expenses and rates from the 2016 sidewalk driveway program, PI 6068. And we're recommending just, I believe, one change on our rates moving forward for the 2017 construction season. The single rate we're recommending is a revision to remove concrete square foot price, adding additional 25% per square foot. Just a reminder, these rates will be applied to all concrete sidewalk and driveway work within the right-of-way, which is initiated by 100% voluntary petition by the property owners for this upcoming 2017 construction season. Each petition is written up in a manner with a map indicating the exact improvement requested and agreed upon prior to the work beginning. They were last revised last year of 2016. Requesting approve these rates as noted and initiate public improvement 6069 2017 sidewalk and driveway program.
I'll offer it, Your Honor.
Second.
I just got one question.
Yeah.
Under the budgetary impact for the 30,000,
Mhm.
is it like a first come, first serve as far as, or do we already have, do we have enough? How does it work when they fill it out for the request? Is it?
It's a sort of manner. We keep a tally and everything. The policy is to replace, this sidewalk program's policy is to replace subject areas where trees have damaged the sidewalks or the homeowner requests it or things like that. So yes, I guess priority is given. If we have a lot of people petitioning for volunteer, we will probably work with those, address those concerns prior to other areas.
Thank you.
As I'm reading this, Brian, the 25% or 25 cents is removing concrete,
Yes.
okay? So the other ones you're good with as far as?
Yeah, I'm not recommending any change.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second already, correct? So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries, and we'll move that on. And again, is this all right on the consent agenda?
I would think so, yes.
Okay.
Good, Ron.
What?
You're doing good.
All right, thanks. I think, are you still up, or do we have one
I
more?
have one more item.
You're getting a good.
Need water?
here. All right, so we're going to
I
look
think so.
at the assessment worksheet for the RTC tunnels.
Yes, this is in regards to Public Improvement 9692. Back in September, the City Council accepted the professional services agreement from Stantec in regards to the Environmental Assessment Worksheet, EAW, which is required to be completed to any campus tunnel demolition consideration and subsequent approval from SHPO. Stantec has completed the EAW. That's included in your packet. This EAW, to start this process, requires a responsible governing unit, RGU, to endorse this document prior to submitting it to the Minnesota Environmental Quality Board, EQB monitor. This initiates the availability, notice, and distribution process pursuant to Minnesota Rules, Chapter 4410. Once this is approved, if approved, and submitted, there's a 30-day public comment period that would begin, and it would conclude at a hearing at City Hall where all written comments submitted during this 30-day public comment period are read and discussed. I've noted in here the City Council should anticipate a hearing on April 3rd, 2017, if approved. Before you rate to projection, this is included in EAW. These little hatched areas and solid black lines are part of the EAW, what it's proposing for removal of these tunnels on the RTC campus.
All right?
I'll make that motion, move ahead to the recommendation of the council, but I'd like to have it not on the consent agenda. Give us public, because the rest of the council needs to
Well,
hear
let's
it.
start one at a time.
Okay,
We'll
I'll make
discuss it.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second it so we can discuss it.
Let's discuss that motion. As far as this action, any comments or questions? I have one, at least. Brian, as we look at these, you talked about the bulkheads and sealing up. So if we go to this route, we'll be sealing under the buildings that some of those tunnels remain, right, as part of the...
Yes, it's covered in here. The proposal is essentially bulkheading the terminal ends where it meets the buildings, intersecting buildings. That bulkhead, I'm assuming that'd be a CMU type of bulkhead for where it enters into the basements of the buildings. I believe under building 3 and 1, and I can't recall off the top of my head, but there's partial tunnels there. The intent of this was to remove a majority of the tunnels on the campus, but leave portions where they're protected, being already with above ground structures that already have roofs and everything like that, to give you a representative sample of what it may have looked like at that time, per SHPO standards. But like
Right.
this will have to, like I mentioned, this has to be still approved by SHPO before we could even move forward on it.
Right. And as we look at that map up there, I'm just going to shoot this thing with that. As you look at building number 1, we have tunnels. You're pretty sure there's tunnels under here. We do have tunnels to the side here too, don't we?
Yes.
So one of the moisture questions we've had has been that the tunnels contribute to the moisture problem. So as we, yeah. So let me,
Mostly from 5 to 23 is where the moisture, I think the biggest part of the moisture problem is there's a low spot in there. It just must be, how long, Guy? 50 feet or 60 feet of water that sits in, that's where it all comes, that's where it vents through everything, so.
all right. So my question was, as we go forward and go to council, and we did discuss this before the meeting a little bit. So if we're looking to make some recommendations, it seems the council has been wanting us to focus on that building and to primarily, as a first or initial thrust as we go and working on this thing. Can we get some more ideas on if we were working backward on trying to open that building up for Summerfest, so that to some part, not the extent of the tours we had, but limited, that we could possibly, with some kind of ventilation, have that available to look at and that would relate to sealing the tunnels. I'm just wondering, Brian, if we can't get that included in the SHPO, or at least recommend that we look at it, so that we don't have to come back again and say, well, can we do something to seal those off or whatever, so that we can stop that moisture flow. You know, we talked about the mechanical systems that could be looked at.
Yes.
So, well, Bill's got a comment.
Just one thing to remember is, now, we did put 2 dehumidifiers in the main tower structure, I believe. So
Right.
that was helping last year. Just as a reminder, we put those in.
Right, yep, and it's good, and I'm talking to the police chief about that, it still hasn't fully remedied the problem, as I understand. So that's why I was wondering if we could have some kind of an estimate or looking at that going forward, so we know if it's possible for us to even look in there, open it up for the public, which we have had a fair amount of requests for, so.
Yeah. In
Maybe
regards.
just a note on, as he passed it on to council, I'm not asking.
So if I'm understanding, you're not requesting the EAW as it stands
No,
right now, get
no.
revised?
But the
Okay.
bigger picture,
Yep.
as we look at it, let's not have to go back and ask SHPO, well, could we do something to close those off and stop the moisture as we look to get this permit and that period they have, so we don't get tripped up here too much, that we'd at least consider, what if we did that? So when we ask SHPO, we're comprehensive and we're looking at that one building, you know, does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying? It's not a lot of extra work now, but it would help us if we do decide to do something. So that's just a recommendation. Is that okay if we just pass that on, to look at that?
Pass it on for discussion to the council, I think
Right.
that'll be just fine.
I wrote it.
Yeah.
Okay. We got a motion, right?
Yep.
And it's seconded, so any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. All right, we'll pass that on. And are we gonna leave this, we're not gonna put this on the consent, right?
No, I'd
So-
like to have it on the regular,
We'll
on the,
leave
would
it.
be old business, would that be, Lynn? Or wherever you want. You'll figure it out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very
Slide
much.
it in there somewhere.
Mr. Yavaro. Mr. Taylor, refuse truck.
Thank you. As part of our equipment replacement program, we're proposing that you authorize, you recommend to the council to authorize purchase of a new refuse truck in the amount of $137,488.80. That includes with it a trade-in of a unit that we previously had been talking about refurbishing for single-sort recycling. That trade-in amount being as high as it is, and then the refurbishing costs coming in at what they are, we feel we're going to get a better value trading that unit in. And hopefully I'll have some updated numbers and propose another purchase for a single-sort truck real soon. But anyway, back to this truck. We're going to be hopefully purchasing a 2018 Freightliner truck with the Labrie refuse equipment. It's to replace Unit 221, a Peterbilt truck with the same brand of refuse equipment, the Labrie, and authorizing the disposal of that truck through the trade-in.
Okay. All right, you want to move this forward to the motion?
I just got one question, it's kind of a naive one, but Mr. Hicks had pointed out at our last discussion we talked about with this recycling program, maybe going to smaller containers. That would have no bearing on what truck we're going to buy, correct?
No, the truck that we purchase will be able to pick from the 35-gallon can if we implement that rate, all the way up to the 300-gallon totes that we have out there.
I figured, but I just,
Yeah.
never know.
We've got another question here, yep.
Is this coming off of state contract?
It is, yep,
Okay.
through the state contract, and then the NJPA discount is included in that.
Okay.
I'll offer that motion, Your Honor.
I'll second it.
It's made and seconded.
Thanks, Guy.
Any further discussion on that? I had one question on regard to the technology and the type of truck as we look forward to the single sort possibilities. And it was brought up in some discussions we've had with the county about, we just talked about weighing options or different things. When we go this direction with this truck, are we able to add any other things to it? And I mean, obviously, it's something you can, you know
We
more
can
about
look
than
into
we
that
do.
again. We did check into weighing of each individual can as they're dumped, and there's, I think it was one municipality in the country that does that. They're doing it more broadly over in Europe, but just one in
One
the
that you
United
found in our
States.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can look into that again.
Well, it's only, I'm not saying you have to, I just was curious about, I don't know enough about these trucks, but typically if you're looking at any kind of larger equipment, obviously they're in line with what's happening with recycling and advances, and so that's really my question, is it's the kind of truck that we can depend on to be, if we need to do any additions or something, it's that kind of a purchase.
Yeah, it definitely has all the electronic equipment in there, the computer-operated controls, so.
Yeah.
A scale likely could be added into it if it's something feasible and
All right.
council decides to go that way.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do you want to put that on the consent agenda?
Yeah.
All right. Moving forward, we have some surplus equipment.
Yeah, thank you. Just seeking the council, or the committee's recommendation to the council to declare unit number 21, a 94 Ford van with 45,000 miles as surplus. Previously, I think it was back in October, yeah, the GMC Suburban that had been used in the engineering department had been surplused. But in looking at the fleet, we'd like to keep that, use it for the park department, and then this 94 van that the park department had been using, surplus that and dispose of it through the Gov Deals auction site.
Okay. So you want a recommendation to approve the city van as surplus equipment?
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Any other questions? Mr. Taylor? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I just got one question, Your Honor. Do we have to make any action on that 1998 to put it back on the fleet then?
I think include that in the resolution ultimately
Okay.
at council, yep. So as that
Thank
memo
you.
presented.
Thanks, yeah. Just so everyone knows, we did get an item of information on the mold abatement, which we passed on, but that was just informational with the RTC, so that was from an earlier one, not this one. Okay, update on BJ's. Oh, purchase,
Yeah.
number 8, excuse me. Approve the purchase of property from Gary Wall.
So as you can see on the photo, aerial photo I've got on the screen, there's a triangle of land that's to the north of our public works facilities. That land formerly housed some bulk fuel tanks operated by Beckland Fuel. The bulk fuel tanks were removed a few years ago. I'm not sure how many years ago.
Sawmill service?
Beckland, yeah, I think so. Well, I think Beckland sold them to
Okay.
Gary, South Mill. So, as you can see, the items stored on that property are city inventory. It's the 300-gallon totes. We've been using that area for the last 13 years or so without any rent being paid to the owner. So the owner approached the city and asked if we would be interested in buying that, just to consolidate all of our land there, just to include that piece. And it's really a useless piece of property to anybody but the city. It's surrounded by city property on south and east sides, and then the railroad right-of-way is up on the north, on the west side there. So their request was to purchase it for assessed value, and that is $3,800. So looking for the committee's recommendation of the council to purchase it for that amount, $3,800, and that amount would come from the equipment fund, and then included in that amount would be $12.54 in the deed tax.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion's been made, second.
I'll second that.
Second. Let's, any further discussion on that? As I understand, that property is about .6 acre,
Yep, .64, yeah.
right? And I guess the only other question is Mr. Wall doesn't have problem about our prior usage without reimbursement of that, or we're just kind of,
No, he's okay if we just purchase it for the assessed value. He's not gonna ask for any rent from the
Well,
previous
Right.
13
I was-
years.
I was approached by Gary about this property, and I asked him point blank, I said, do you want us to give you 10 years back of your taxes, or how it was? And he thought that would be nice, but he said, no. He said, that's my fault for not coming to the city 10 years ago and doing this. And so I said, whatever, and then I sent him on to Guy and Bill, and those guys went through it, so. It's,
Well,
it
yeah.
was something that was overlooked a long time by himself, he said, and he just wrote the checks out for taxes, and he didn't really realize, and I said, we'll take care of it, so.
Yeah, I just don't think we want to be using someone's property without giving them a break or something on it, you know, so I'm a little bit,
He was asked, and he was okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I understand. He's a really nice guy.
Good citizen.
Huh?
Good citizen.
He is, yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, if there's no further questions or comments, and all in favor of this, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It passes, okay, so we'll move that on. Do you want that on the consent, or how do you want
I
that?
think it's fine.
Okay, consent agenda. All right, we're on to BJ's property now.
Coming up? Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. In 2015, the city took over the former BJ's property at 1040 East Fur, and at that time, it was thought about putting up a trailhead in that location. Since then, the city removed the underground gas tubs, containers, and it was approached to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board to see what their recommendation would be. After further discussion, they thought it would be a good place for a trailhead with the following amenities: picnic shelter, restroom, information kiosk, water fill station, fix-it station, green space, and parking. The range of trailheads can be just a gravel parking lot up to providing these amenities. So we could also add additional parking and a sidewalk between the parking lot and the YMCA, so they could use that for overflow parking. On weekends, if there's a fundraiser, kids could use it for car washes or plant sales. These were all the ideas that the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board had. So they're bringing this forward. Again, it's their recommendation. Nothing's been planned or engineered. We wanted to see what exactly the city council wanted to do there, or if they're still thinking in that direction as a trailhead. So this is something I put up. Now remember, I'm a Parks and Recreation guy. I'm not an engineer, so I just put lines. I think the blue square would be a shelter. I'm thinking a 16 by 16, a large with concrete picnic tables so they can't be moved around and they can be there year round. The restrooms, we just put a restroom up at Adams Park, a 2-stall, 1 men's, 1 women, and for a price rise, that was about $100,000. The sewer and water is already there, which is nice. A fix-it station, water fill station, the amenities somebody coming into town would use. Not only would this be, we have a lot of trails in town. We have the North Country Trail, the Central Lakes Trail. We're planning the Glacier Edge Trail. We have the snowmobile trails and the river trail. So it's what the city council wants to do and how they want to present it. We put a green buffer around to do a buffer between the houses and get some green space. People come in, they want to walk their dog, they want the kids to run around. Snowmobiles could use this over the winter, trailers if they're going to come in. I know there is a trail planned behind the YMCA. We have an easement all the way down to the river. I walked that. So we're here just seeing what direction you would like us to go and what amenities you would like us to start planning for.
All right, thanks, Steve. That's good. I like your colors. You know, it helps. You know, it's much more exciting than the engineer stuff we get.
Theirs is a little bit more detailed, I'm sure.
I got a couple of things.
You like, yeah.
I definitely want to move ahead on this. I think the first step we need to do is get rid of the building and the awning. I mean, that's
Correct.
the biggest complaint I'm getting from people is, when are you going to get rid of that? When's it's going to go? And it's a valuable piece. I think if we can auction it off and it can be gone, it would go really quick. So I think the spring would be a good time for us to get rid of that thing and try set a goal of June sometime to be gone.
I-
And then move ahead after that's gone, what we should do with it later on, after that.
Right, I think we would present a plan, you know, this is what it's gonna cost with these amenities maybe, if it's in the price range we can do, or take away the restrooms, that's obviously, that would be the big part of it, or increase parking or decrease parking, things along that line. They're looking at a nice park setting. Oh, Guy had something to say.
Go ahead. I'm just gonna say, we did get a quote from Comstock to dismantle the building. And the thought had been in the past to reuse the building for some public works need, either down at the landfill or maybe even on the public works site. Just the main shop is getting really full with equipment, and equipment that we're getting is larger, so we just need more storage space. So that's potential uses. The awning, I'm not sure if we would have any use for that, but if you're suggesting we go for auction, we can.
Rod, there's people that asked me about what they do with that awning, and they wanna, construction companies that have their own fill sites would like to have them up, but I mean, I think it would be a good item to just, let them take it down and get, you know, and just auction it off. I think it's something that, when Orton sold, downtown Orton sold, there were people fighting over that thing, and it ended up at the bus garage, so.
Right.
It's something I think it's desired, so.
And I think that's all important, although I want us to stick to the recommendation, develop the properties at Trailhead, and I think those are all gonna be considerations we have to
I
take
just
into
wanna
account.
move forward on it, just get started, let's get going on it. It's been sitting
So
there.
are you making a motion?
I don't, you want a motion of direction, is that what you want?
Just direction. Currently, we don't have, obviously, we don't have a budget. We would need to start developing a budget and
Just give
planning.
direction to move
With-
on with the removal of the buildings and the awning and bring us back a plan.
Planning, you're talking, okay.
Yeah.
Is that?
At least we'll get the site clean this summer you're looking at, and then they develop it. And we'll, part of the Trail Town, it'll
Let's-
be part of that discussion,
Excuse me,
master plan
let's
as
just
well.
finish. We've got a motion. Did you second that?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, and so we're gonna go forward and discuss this a bit more, the motion. Any other questions or comments? And furthermore, what you were gonna say, Steve? I did have another question, and that's that haven't we just created a new, like, Trail Town Committee, which is the Minnesota Waters and Prairie chapter of the North Country Trail? That's the Trail Town that they're to plan?
Correct, the North
Yeah.
Country Trail, Trail Town designation?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know you're in charge of that, Steve, so it's, and I think, if I'm correct, that also addresses amenities and what we do with the trail, right, in town?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
So I guess my recommendation is that we do this planning, but that we note that we bring in the North Country Trail Town Committee into this,
By all
right?
means.
And we also, Dennis Lip at the Y has an integral connection to this because the connection to the Y in the original resolution, we mentioned that. So I believe he should also be noted in this and in our minutes that we want the Trail Town Committee, Dennis Litt. And I've also had a request from Petal Fergus Falls to look at this, since this would be a place where people could stop, they could possibly have repairs or water. They just get a chance to have, you know, some discussion about possible, what goes into it.
Correct.
So I don't have any objections to moving it along. I think there has to be more, like you said, planning and estimate of the cost. Anybody else? I know we have someone from the North Country Trail here who's worked from the beginning, Ron Spangler. Any comments or questions, Ron, about looking at this? And
Well, not only my perspective is from the North Country Trail, but also from the Central Lakes Trail, because I was involved with that from 1994 to 2004. And, you know, we don't have an official Central Lakes trailhead, and in my vision, and those of us that were on the committee, always thought it would be really nice to have it in the southeast part or in the downtown area. However, you need to know that I do not oppose anything that has to do with trails. But I don't think it should stop here. I guess it makes sense because you have the property, but also a second or a third location in our community size, you know, may be helpful, and I'd like to see some possible commitment by the city, you know, for that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one other thing, I don't know how bad that building is, but the North Country Trail really has minimal needs. You know, we're basically looking at a footpath, you know, just ground or grass. But if there's any value in that building, maybe there could be some salvage of that if the cost would not be awful. And that could be used for community meetings. Number one, the North Country Scenic Trail could use a structure.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need one? Absolutely not. We're using our backyards and, you know, we're gonna have our trailer, you know, for our equipment and what have you. But there are towns around the nation that do actually have, you know, buildings that have been divided, just as a possibility. Do we need it? Absolutely not. Would we use it? Absolutely. So I'm kind of coming at this from a couple of different directions. One, I'd be just tickled if that was over at, what is it?
Red
Lake
Sox.
Grotto, Adams Park. Wow. I mean, I'd be just doing handstands. But, you know, so I don't think that if I were to pick a spot, I don't think I'd pick this spot. But there again, I'm not opposed to anything that has to do with trails. Trust me.
Those are good comments. Thanks, Ron. I think also we could consider that, in light of Ron's comments, that there are places where the North Country Trail intersects with the glacial edge, or the extension of the Central Lakes Trail, the Glacial Edge Trail. There are other possible options, right, Steve? That, I mean, we could put it in different parts of the city necessarily, you know.
Correct.
Not that this property couldn't be used, but I'm just saying that what Ron said, we could look at some other options probably.
Correct. During the North Country Trail, this would just be one aspect of a whole web of amenities to encourage people to come into town to use our trails. I know the DNR purchased property south of 210 that they are going to make a trailhead, a formal trailhead for Central Lakes Trail, because right now it's bootleg behind the storage shed, so that will be coming.
The other question I contacted, because I'm also on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Glacial Edge Trail and the master planning downtown. So in asking them, they wanted to be able to think about this in terms of our long-term planning, because as we create structures, we create needs for amenities around them, we create activity, we create connections, and I believe their opinion was that they'd like to weigh in on it, you know. So I realized we could move this along to the council, but my suggestion also is that we get enough input from all the interested parties so that we don't, you know, jump ahead of what the master planning is either. Does that make sense? Yeah, Ron, go ahead.
I have a couple of different hats. I'm passionate about trails, but I'm also passionate about business. And from a business perspective, having a location closer to downtown would be good. You know, if a person needs to, a person comes into town and they haven't packed their lunch, if they can go to Burger King or if they can go to one of the restaurants downtown, that's always nice. And of course, if we're having it here, and if this were to be the Central Lakes trailhead, you know, so then we make sure the trail of the Central Lakes Trail comes all the way across and gets to this location. It becomes a little further for an individual to get to the actual Central Lakes Trail.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the North Country Trail is very close to this. It's, you know, just up the hill on the other side of Red Sox Park. So that part is good. And I don't know, I mean, I actually sit on that Glacial Edge committee too. I don't remember exactly where that trail is. Is it going right past here?
Yes, the loop into town, it's going right past on a sidewalk. And this trailhead would be not just a North Country Trail or Central Lakes Trail, would just be a trailhead for all our trails, highlighting with the information kiosks, giving information on all of the trails.
Mhm. Right, I think there's utility in that, and I guess, you know, my personal, members of the committee, my personal druthers on this is that we want to move it forward and look at it, like Scott said, we'll get to some of the things, go after some of these things, the awning, the other things. At the same time, you know, I would entertain a bit of an amendment that we consider this station, you know, but with consultation of the North Country Trail Town Committee and the master planners in mind, so we have more options as to possible sites and the extent of this development. You know, we're looking at a fair amount of money if we put it into this spot and choose a spot. I believe we have to have enough input on the wider sense of the other trails. So I'm just suggesting we move it to the committee that we entertain an amendment to add that bit. Consider this with the master planners and the Trail Town Committee in mind, possible other sites as well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Is that all right?
I can amend that, that's fine, but I just want to make sure we move ahead of getting rid of that building and that awning.
Yeah.
I
This
think
summer. That's the biggest thing right now. We got to plan out the rest of it, but I want to move ahead to get these guys ready so that when it gets time for spring here, we can
Yep.
dispose of those things, and then it just makes it so much easier to deal with, so. Yes.
Totally understood. That's a good, yep.
You mentioned Pedal Fergus Falls, but I think it's critical we also have the Bike and Pedestrian Committee look at it.
Right, if we have more time, we can draw those people in, they're in the master planning too, I think. So that, right. If that's all right, then we'll just amend that to.
Yep. Second.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that was the intention, but we can
So
put it in, we can actually.
we'll be considering, amended to consider this along with the master planning and the Trail Town Committee and other necessary groups.
Yep,
So-
well, obviously.
Okay, so then we can move it forward that way. Should we try to read that as it might stand now, or should?
Tough on her. Let her work on it.
Yeah.
We know about what it is.
We know what the
You
intention is.
understand the intent of this, all right? And we'll look at the motion. Any other comments or questions on that? Ron, does that satisfy some of the questions you've raised? And I know you've done a wonderful job long-term on this, quietly behind the scenes usually, so thank you so much for coming and for commenting, because we need that, those kind of inputs. All right, all in favor then of that as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion
Steve.
carries. Thank you very much.
Um,
We have somebody who's excused for a concert, so we're letting him off. Yep.
Rod, can we go to consent on that, so they can prepare, instead of coming back to the council with, and we can talk about these things again, just so that the staff can prepare the demo or whatever we're gonna do before they bring it back to the council, to the buildings or something, just get that going, and then they can organize these groups too and get that kind of ready too, so that before we start
Yeah.
coming back to us. I mean, it'll come back to us, but just get it on the consent and let's get moving with it.
Let's get moving on part one.
Yeah.
We can let the
There
other
you go.
I
layers.
think that's the problem.
Perfect.
We'll put it on the consent. Okay. Last thing on is the Kira grant, Patrick Hollister. Now, we don't have materials in hand, Patrick. I don't know if you intended that, but we just don't have anything to look at, so.
I have some things to pass out if you want them.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Hang on a sec
Are
here.
you gonna get the 3-minute rule today? No.
Thank you. Do you want us all to speed read this right now? or should
I
we-
can summarize what it says here. Hang on a sec here.
Thank you.
I belong to a group known as Beautiful Fergus Falls. We're an informal group. We're not an official committee of the city. although we do enjoy help from people like Gordon and Steve, and even the mayor on occasion comes to our meetings. We meet monthly, usually in the Gold Room here at City Hall. We have a few projects underway to help beautify Fergus Falls. And I'm here this afternoon basically to ask your blessing for a second attempt at something that we attempted last fall. We're very interested in the future of Wright Park. We're interested in some kind of a redesign of Wright Park. And you may recall that those of you that were on the council as of last fall may recall that I came to one of these committee meetings and also to a council meeting last fall, I think in October, seeking your blessing to apply for assistance from a graduate student in landscape architecture from the University of Minnesota through the CURA office, Center for Urban and Regional Affairs, to assist us with a concept plan for a redesign of Wright Park. And this committee and the council approved that effort, and Gordon Hajdukovic and I submitted the application last fall. We found out on December 1st, and I think that's the first page in my handout there, that we did not get it,
Right.
but they did encourage us to apply again. So the next due date is March 6th, and so I'm basically here seeking your blessing once again to reapply. If you approve this, and if the city council approves this on Tuesday evening, Gordon Hajdukovic and I will get to work improving our application along the lines of CURA's own suggestions, and we will submit it by the March 6th due date, and hopefully we will get the assistance of this graduate student in the summer of 2017.
Thank you.
So moved.
All right, it's been moved.
So move second.
Seconded, so we're
Brad,
going
same
to
question.
discuss this a bit more. Yep.
Are they gonna help you, tell you why you didn't get it the first time? I mean, there's
Yeah,
some type of a policy? I didn't have time to read through it.
Yep. One thing was, they thought that summer, if we had gotten it last fall, we would be in the middle of the project right now, because what we had applied for last fall was help during spring semester 2017. One of their suggestions was that they thought summer would actually be better because the graduate student would actually have more hours available. They also thought, we had originally proposed that the graduate student would make 3 separate visits to Fergus Falls. And each visit would be a minimum of 2 nights. They actually felt like that might be too much. So we're going to revise our plan here, maybe to involve fewer visits. The student would still be doing a lot of work, on their own, but we would maybe only have them come up 2 times instead of 3 times. So there were some suggestions. I think they're even on the first page of what I handed out there.
What we did is we made it nicer than we should have.
I think so.
Looks like to me.
So I think they were, yeah, that you might have it right there. And the other thing is, as I should point out, as I did last fall, that this is almost entirely free, although there will be an in-kind contribution expected from the city of Fergus Falls. Last fall, when I came before your group, you asked for an estimate of that, and by the time of the council meeting, I had come up with a figure of $1,000. The reason we had come up with that was, at that time, we were anticipating 3 separate visits by the student, 2 nights each. It is our responsibility to provide the lodging and meals for the student when the student visits. We are also responsible for providing access for the student to some basic office equipment here at City Hall, like a computer, a printer, a copier, that kind of stuff. Also, we anticipated some map making and map printing by your GIS specialist here at City Hall. And finally, the application asked us to identify an individual city staff member who would serve as a supervisor for this student for purposes of the project, and we chose Gordon, and Gordon was fine with that. So we are sticking to the $1,000 figure once again. So specifically, what I'll be asking the city council next Tuesday, if you're okay with this, is not only for Gordon and I to reapply by March 6th, but also to authorize a maximum cash expenditure by the city as part of this project of $1,000. We would cap it at $1,000. I believe it would come out of the parks budget as was planned last fall. And we will endeavor to keep it as far below $1,000 as possible. One of our strategies that we had last fall is we think that when the student comes up and visits, that there may be opportunities for the student to actually stay in somebody's home, probably somebody who's involved with the project, as opposed to putting them up in a hotel, and that would certainly save us some money. So we will seek out those opportunities.
Okay. I'll offer my home if they need a place to stay. We have pretty good food there. So.
Candy bars anyway.
Terrific.
And the other question is on the master planning, as you envision this. Obviously, this is a major opportunity that would dovetail to our master planning.
Correct. And we, last fall, when we applied, we were aware of the downtown riverfront master planning effort that was about to be undertaken. And we're sort of in the early phases of that project, but that project is well underway now. We anticipated last fall, and we would do so again if our application is successful. We would put together a committee with representatives of various interests, and certainly we want people that are currently involved in the downtown riverfront master plan involved with the Wright Park concept plan, because the two of them obviously are very interrelated.
Right, and I don't know about this point on another committee, but certainly having the student involved with, sitting in on the meetings of some of the master planning so they know what's going on, and there's discussion, that's all I'm saying.
Sure.
So,
Yep.
Okay, I think we've gotten enough on that for now. We can go ahead, and I think, are you ready to vote to move this on with the information to the council? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries, we'll move that on. Consent agenda or discussion?
I think that's fine.
We approved it last year.
We've
I don't
already
think it's a
approved it,
problem.
yeah.
So I think I'm glad they're staying with it and just.
Let's put on the consent with that caveat that we set the limit at $1,000, and you're going to try to work hard to keep it under it?
Correct.
And, Yep.
Do you think I need to be there Tuesday evening?
No.
I
We did
wouldn't
it
think
already.
so. I
Okay.
think we believe it should be moved
I
forward.
think
You've
it'd be
already
good.
approved it
We
once.
did it.
You've done a good job.
Changed nothing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, do we have any other things to come for us? We just note that we did finish at 12:57. Scott. Meeting adjourned.